this could be the last game of our current TVT, spawning down in the bottom left side. It is going to be Empire.Beastyqt, who is currently facing elimination. This is like at the end of Survivor, where everyone's voting against you and it comes down to the last note, but then they delay it for a year so they can do a live show in New York City. Makes me mad every time. But up in the top right side, it is going to be Sting. And I just want to make sure I mention really quickly, guys, number one, you can follow them on Twitter, and also make sure to pick up the TSL4. It's like $10. You get a lot of really cool stuff. And if nothing else, you're directly supporting TeamLiquid, which has been in the esports business actually since like esports almost existed, as they've been around since the start of StarCraft 1. So go support them. They deserve $10. Come on. Come on.
Come on. Do it. We do have Sting building his supply depot in his main. Again, can be a little bit telling that a player does want to do some sort of early aggression play. Fast gases tend to follow after supply depots in the main base, because players don't want to have those vulnerabilities at the front. But Beastyqt, I think, is probably going to just go back to his standard, tried and true one barracks expo play. It's just all around decent, and whenever players are up against the wall, you see them tend to go back to whatever they think is their strongest play. We saw Nerchio and Dark Force do that in game number 5 that they played against one another, and here is Sting going for that fast gas in his main base, trying to do something a little tricky. He can afford to do something that way if he wants to, because he has the lead.
Now, in the last series that we ended up watching, I wasn't too surprised when I see it go to a Game 5. I was a little bit surprised with Teja since he had so much momentum here, but I feel like Beastyqt is definitely a little bit, I don't know if I'd say nervous, but he's got to be shaken up by the 2 games that he's lost to. You got to remember the kind of builds that he lost to. One was a proxy, one was a cloaked banshee. That is just infuriating stuff right there. And the one game that kind of went to a straight up macro game, he was able to end up taking that. So that is my guess. Just the numbers are kind of adding up, pointing towards him trying to play it a little bit more standard here. Cloak Banshee, always an imminent threat in TVT. It's a build that basically every player knows how to do.
Yeah.
And every player has gone up against it a lot, but as we saw, it can still do a crazy amount of damage.
It's so stable, the Cloaked Banshee openings, due to the fact that it forces your position almost always. Sure, you can go Viking Raven exactly as Beastyqt did, but then what? You have to be on the lookout. You have to be staying at home. It deters any kind of push, and that gives the freedom to the Banshee-ing player to expand, to do pretty much whatever he so desires. And, looks like Beastyqt started and canceled the refinery? Gotta be some kind of misclick.
Or trying to, maybe there was scouting involved, I don't know, that he wants to try and metagame his opponent here, but with the expansion already going down, it's kind of saying, hey, I'm expanding. So I don't know if that's actually going to end up playing for him that well, but I mean, it's only going to be a couple resources lost there, so I don't think it's definitely going to be the decision maker as the game moves forward. But we do have the factory going to be going down for Sting. It is nearly completed, but is he going to go for the starport right away? He does have the money kind of saved up right now to be able to do something like that, or will he relatively soon? Down it goes, and day 9 we only see 1 gas, so kind of what are his options here with the 1-1-1?
I would imagine he's doing one of 2 builds. One would be, oh my gosh, a little Marine skirmish at the front, and some nice control by Beastyqt will help him kill off. Looks like both of the Marines with a little bit of health to spare, but he's going to have to retreat with both of those, else he'll die to this one new brand Marine from Sting. And there he is. He leads with the 2 weakened ones. Ooh, nice little control there by Beastyqt. But I would imagine that we're either going to see a Hellion Marine medevac push out of Sting, or he's just going to be going for the 1 gas Banshee play.
Down goes the bunker here. You got to remember that Beastyqt is currently shooting a supply depot, also has very low HP, and decides just to march right in here with this first Hellion. Has got to delay the bunker, get 2 SCVs and potentially a mule here. Thankfully for Beastyqt, he did not have to move that mule away, but if he gets the 3rd SCV, this has definitely been worth it, and kills off those Marines because they were so low on HP. The Hellion does remain, and remember, units at the early stage of the game seemingly have a lot of health. Almost loses that Hellion. I don't think he's going to allow it to go down. Gets
oh no,
2
oh no,
HP,
the bunker!
And the bunker does not complete here. Sting is just going to be finishing this off, and the SCV still cannot complete that bunker. So Sting doing a substantial amount of damage here in the early game.
Oh gosh, I mean, if you're in Beastyqt's shoes, you are going to be feeling so frustrated. You just nearly lost the game to a basic 1 barracks, 1 factory push. And now everything else that you were intending on doing has been set behind. We see the combat shield starting from Beastyqt quite on time, which is very impressive given the stress and strain he was under. But there is the gasless Banshee play coming up. Beastyqt is going to have to start conserving on that energy, and that's going to put him even more behind.
Yeah, I mean, Beastyqt does have the 3 racks. He's also got the engineering bay on the way. Could he go for upgrades here? I don't know if he's going to have enough time. We do see the expansion going to be going down for Sting right now. It is, of course, way, way, way behind his opponents, but the worker count is identical, so Sting able to do that damage that he absolutely needed to do here. The Viking now going to be on the way. There's the Banshee just going to poke in there, see what it can find out, see if it can kill anything. Does look like Beastyqt will be prepared, at least with 1 missile turret there. Should help lock down any angle that Banshee could get in there. If not, the Marines will be able to fill in the gaps, as they currently are standing in the main base here, though. And yeah, you can see right there that Sting not going to be able to poke in there quite yet with the Banshee. Needs to be careful, though, poking in the main.
There it is, trying to dart in. Beastyqt is going to finish combat shield right now. Perfect timing, so that way it is 3 hits to kill off a Marine instead of 2. That is going to make Sting, even if he does do a lot of really excellent micro, it'll put him quite far back out of the main base. There are the turrets going down from Beastyqt, so it does look like Beastyqt is kind of feeling like, Cloak could come. I lost to it last game. May as well invest a little bit extra spreading out these turrets, and I actually don't mind that decision. Ordinarily, I would totally scoff at it and be like, oh, look at him wasting all that turret money, oh my god. However, he got his stim, his +1, and his combat shield right on time. The only thing that is slightly delayed are the medevacs. And Sting is really only having 1 edge, which is that his expansion has been a little bit less perturbed and that his tech is a little bit higher up.
Also, do note the positioning of all 3 of those missile turrets will help in dealing with drops. It's not that he's completely drop-proof at this point, but putting him on the outer edge means the medevac cannot get there without at least being shot at, whereas if it was in the mineral line, it can easily unload somewhere other than just the mineral line, so he should be safe. But it does look like Sting having quite a few different units in his unit composition. We have a medevac, we have Siege Tank, Marine, Viking, Banshee, which that's one powerful thing about the Terran army is you can mix and match endlessly, as you can basically get whatever composition you want, Day 9.
Oh, it's like it's the same reason I shop at Dillard's, mixing and matching my. There's one person listening who's a fan of Dillard's. It's like, yeah, Dillard's! Having his Dillard's boxers on. Now, in terms of Beastyqt's read on his opponent, he saw the Banshee, he knows that his opponent will necessarily have to go tank heavy. Sure, you might want to follow up with Marines in Sting's spot, but you're not going to have as many Marines as Beastyqt. So now, Sting is hitting at a key timing. This is before Stim, before medevacs, but still after siege mode for Sting. Sting is trying to get as far forward as he can. Beastyqt sacrificing a lot of ground. What is Beastyqt doing? He's pulling back so far, and oh, the tanks have sieged up. Mike, this is a terrible spot for Beastyqt.
This is really, really, really bad, as there are no tanks in position here for Beastyqt, trying to get out that siege tank tech, but it's nowhere near completed siege mode. He's waiting for stim. I think that's what he was trying to do here, but does Sting have his own stim? Not quite yet. So that's going to be the nice advantage that Beastyqt has. Can he stim? Can he get the perfect split? Maybe even drop on top of the siege tanks from behind. But I don't know. He's giving up his expansion right now. He's feeling the heat. He's feeling the pressure. May have to lift off and fly this command center away at some point. I mean, he's going to be straight up contained here, and he can't afford to do this considering he was a little bit behind going into this. You can see the supplies now starting to plummet in comparison to where Sting is at. He's currently at 102. He is supply blocked here actually for full duration of that, but the command center, if it goes down, which it will not, barely able to hang on there. But at this point, Beastyqt's got to break out before the supply block is lifted. There is 5 depots on the way there. You can see that was definitely not intentional. But, you know, now that those depots are done, look at the production tab. All of a sudden, 4 different things being made at once, and the contain is just going to get stronger and stronger.
Beastyqt tries to dart up and pick off the Banshee. That will help slow this push a little bit, but already we see Beastyqt in a terrible position. This was the sacrifice that he shouldn't have made. He gave up all the ground. You know your opponent must rely on tanks if he opens up with a Banshee play or with any sort of heavy tech play. It's the only structure that he can make use of at that point. So you have to make sure he can't get those tanks into good positions. And look at where they are, Mike. They're shooting his frickin' command centers.
Yep, they are absorbing some damage. He did manage to kill off the couple of Marines that kind of willy-nilly went up that ramp. But other than that, the game still remains, and he still has a Banshee and a Viking, but here comes a crazy split by BeastyQt. He is going to be able to break this. You got to remember, though, he has lost a lot of mining time here, so even though he crushed that contain, he is ahead in the units lost, but he's definitely mined a lot less than his opponent right now.
But, you know, it's that very moment with that arc is the precise reason why you must be trying to push out with your Marines if you're against a Banshee player. Once you get that sort of comfort, and you've sort of said, oh, he doesn't actually have cloak, does he? You can step out into the middle of the map and make sure that those tanks don't siege up close to you. As long as you prevent that 10-minute push from doing any damage to you, you are scot-free to move around the map with those Marine medevac. And now I think BeastyQt is doing kind of a clever answer. He's instantly taking 2 expansions. He had a very nicely timed third base, but we're seeing that Sting is just calmly building more and more SCVs. A big push coming out right now for Sting. Their army supplies are almost identical, but again, BeastyQt has to get his slightly larger Marine count into a better position.
Also needs to get those siege tanks into a great spot. These armies are going to be relatively even, so it is going to come down to the positioning here, as the upgrades right now, still no combat shields for the Sting army, so that could play a huge, huge role for BeastyQt, although there's a lot of workers down here which are very, very vulnerable. Plus the mules just dropped. Those mules have got full energy on them, or at least the duration there. And here we go, trying to focus down that command center, but the siege tanks already in position for Sting. Huge, huge hits going down from those tanks. And Sting has somehow denied this expansion with an equally sized army. BeastyQt was not in position to deal with this, as he was playing a more timid positioning, trying to defend the natural and the third base at the same time. But Sting is not going to let that stand, as he is able to lock down this expansion and is getting way, way ahead in the supply right now.
Gosh, he just leapt ahead 30 supply almost instantly. This hook around the backside, a very popular technique at this stage in the game, and I've seen BeastyQt prepared for it, but I mean, after you've had to lift your natural and pull back home, it's easy for some of those basics to just slip off your mind, and now we see the third base going down for Sting. All his units rallied there, and we even have the spotter supply depot for Sting checking that backside.
Which is going to be very important if this contain does eventually get broken, but so far Sting not giving up this position just yet. He may run home with the medevacs here, although could still use them to drop. And here comes the drop of the Marines on top. Well, not really on top of the tanks, but pretty darn close there. They did unseat regardless, and we'll be able to clean these up once again. But the problem is that, yes, BeastyQt is breaking these contains, but he's never able to get ahead in the macro. He tried to take the risk, tried to get the early third. That got denied, which gave Sting the time he needed to get his third. And he's breaking 2 contains, but never done it the exact perfect way that he's going to need to get some more momentum.
I'm still so impressed that BeastyQt is staying really far ahead on upgrades. I mean, BeastyQt is actually almost done with +2 and has +2 armor started. And there we see that Sting is only just now wrapped up 1-1. So they're equal in upgrades, but only briefly. So Sting has a small window to really press the upgrade evenality. Yeah. But Sting has 40 more supply, is swinging along this backside. Where's the tank positioning? A little off. He has only 1 at the south side.
Yeah, needs to make sure to be careful here, but Sting also has to be careful. He doesn't want to march right in that meat grinder. We do have a potential for a minor counterattack up on the top left side, just a couple of Marines, but they can clean out a mineral line very quickly if Stimpack is going to be utilized there, and it's completely undefended. So we shall see. He's going to go for it right now, but unfortunately for him, it's not during an attack. So this is not going to be able to take him by surprise. He's not going to go back to that base to macro and then realize there's no workers there or anything like that. He will be able to clean that up relatively easily. They do get in there, do manage to kill off a couple of workers on gas, but there are already units there to reinforce that. Sting has got full center map control. He's up by 50 supply. I mean, it's going to take a miracle here for BeastyQt to be able to pull this one out. Yes, he does now have the +2 attack, going to have the +2 armor well in advance of his opponent, but if his siege tanks aren't in position here, it's got to be tough. Sting being very, very timid as far as when he's going to attack. He's being very smart and cautious, wants to engage. Does a weird stim there as he got stuck on his own tanks. He decides to run directly up the ramp. The siege tank's not quite in position here yet. For BeastyQt, he may end up losing his command center, but more importantly, losing the tanks here. And can he get that last tank? Yes, he does, with the 2 tanks in the back doing substantial damage. However, you got to remember, with 50 supply lead, he just has more stuff.
The third is just under huge fire from the Stim Marine pack. The upgrade edge doesn't matter for BeastyQt. He has only 3 tanks. Has to have all these SCVs repairing this command center, and Sting's tanks are in a just brutal position. He can continue to poke at the south with all these Marines, with the tanks barraging at the north end. So right now, I mean, what angle does Sting go for? It's just too difficult. Or excuse me, what angle does BeastyQt go for? It's too difficult. Sting has just entrenched himself right in the perfect spot.
Yeah, even in range, those units on the high ground that are rallied down there from those barracks cleans up every single unit there for just a moment. These tanks are raking in the kills, 4 kills, 3 kills, 5 kills, and that's going to add up very, very quickly. He's now 60 supply behind almost, as Sting has just been pushing further and further in the lead. His expansions have never been hindered at all. I think losing maybe 2 SCVs has been the most at those expansions overall. Workers killed is relatively even here, but you know the momentum is still in Sting's court. He hasn't been dropped. He hasn't really lost a contain without doing any damage, and he hasn't ever overextended himself. He's got to try and end it right now, though.
Oh, Sting looks like he didn't siege up first. The first volley does go to Beastyqt, but the superior Marine count from Sting is too much. He shreds the front tank lines.
And GG!